Hey guys, Bird Yugioh here, coming at you with a deck profile this time for what I believe is one of the better decks this format, especially when it comes to budget and rogue strategies, Altergeist. If you saw in my last video, I think pretty highly of this deck as far as where it ranks. I did have it as one of the best decks. I feel this format as one of the best rogue slash budget decks. It got a whole bunch of reprints in the last mega pack, and there's just a lot of kind of cheap cards you can play in it that are very good and do very well in this deck. So let's get started. We just have the one multi-faker. It got hit. I mean, I think for good reason. But it's also still very easy to get this to your hand because that's where you want it. Because basically, if you have this in your hand, if you activate a trap card, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if it's special summon, you can special summon another Altergeist from your deck in defense position. That's normally going to be your Silquidus, because he's going to then be able to target one card your opponent controls and return to the hand. So that's very good, disruption on your opponent's turn. So Altergeist just becomes a very easy way of getting disruptions on the board and just monsters on the board. One of the best ways of getting to Multi-Faker is going to be Meloseek. This card can attack directly. When it inflicts battle damage, you can target one card your opponent controls into the graveyard. But the main reason you play it is one, because it's a level 1, but also if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one Altergeist monster from your deck to your hand. So obviously most of the time that's going to be Multi-Faker. You could do any of them, obviously, that you want. And then also, since he's a level 1, you can easily link him away with Link Karibo. So it becomes, and also you can make, with 1-for-1, you can get to him easily. So overall, this little package here is perfect. You have an easy way of getting to your Multi-Faker now. You only have one, but again, it doesn't really matter too much. One of your other really good starter cards is going to be Marionetter. When this card is normal summoned, you can set one Altergeist trap from your directly from your deck. So that is very good because the Altergeist traps are pretty dang good. And also, you can target one Altergeist you control and one Altergeist in your graveyard, and you send the card on the field to the graveyard, and if you do, you special summon the card from the grave. So it's another way, like if you have a Multi-Faker in the grave and you want to get it back onto the field, Marionetter is going to help you do that. And also, like say you have a Marionetter and a Meloseek on board, you're sending this to grave and then special summoning another guy, and then with Meloseek, then you're going to be adding any Altergeist to the hand. So you could see where that kind of can get out of hand and just become very, very good. We played 2 Silquidus. He's the one, like I said, it's a quick effect. You can return one other Altergeist card you control to the hand, then you target one card your opponent controls and return that to the hand as well. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can target one Altergeist trap in your graveyard and add that to your hand. So it's another way of recycling your traps as well, so you can reuse them. And then also it's a way of recycling Multi-Faker, because if you have Multi-Faker on board, then you special summon Silquidus, then on your opponent's turn you target the Multi-Faker, return it to hand, so then you can then use it again from your hand, use its effect. So very, very good card. I really only wanted it 2 because you more or less would like to be special summoning this off a Multi-Faker and not necessarily having to normal summon it, but it happens every now and then. And then the last Altergeist card we play is Conquery. This one is when an opponent's monster declares an attack and you control an Altergeist card, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, negate the attack. And then if this card is special summoned, you can target one card your opponent controls, and you negate the effects of that card while he is on the field. So it's just a really good way of kind of disrupting your opponent, keeping your monsters on board, so you then can use them on your turn to link them away and stuff, and also um, negating the effect of a face-up card comes in handy a lot too. So yeah, that's it for the Altergeist monsters. We also play some hand traps. That's one of the really good draws of playing this deck, because you play a lot of really good traps, and you can play hand traps, of course. That's always a good thing, especially nowadays. So I just played 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Effect Veiler. Again, you can mess with that ratio all you want. You can play 3 Effect Veiler and 2 DD Crow. You'll find that those work pretty well this format as well. There's a lot of stuff going on in the graveyards where DD Crow would be good, and Effect Veiler at 3 is pretty good because you can use Effect Veiler more than once per turn. It's a level 1, not that it comes up too much, but you can, if you happen to have to summon it, you can link it away into like a Linkuriboh or whatever. So that's it for the monsters. Not too high a monster count. Mostly in control decks you want a lot of traps, and not quite as many monsters, but onto the spells. We play 3 Pot of Duality. You're really only going to be special summoning on your opponent's turn, and then you have traps as well, like Manifestation, which can special summon from the graveyard, so you can do that on your turn if you're not on the Pot of Duality. No special summoning during your turn, but otherwise this is just your way of getting to like a multi-faker if you happen to see it, or just some of your really good traps, or even this card here. We played 3 Secret Village. Almost all of your monsters, besides Ash Blossom, but all of your Altergeist are all Spellcaster. So if you have one of them on the field, heck, even the Lynx, Hextia and Prime Banshee are also Spellcaster. Then if your opponent doesn't play a Spellcaster deck, they can't activate any spell cards. So it's a really good lock because, decks nowadays love to play their spell cards. And then the last one we play is 1 for 1. Yes, it does clash with Pot of Duality, but you got to kind of make a judgment call if you have, both of these in hand. Most of the time, you're going to want to activate this no matter what. It's just such a powerful card that if you can activate this, then do that one first. And then if you can't activate Pot of Duality that turn, you can't. But 1 for 1 is usually going to be your better option most of the time. But if that gets negated, then obviously you can activate your Pot of Duality and go from there. But that's it for the spells. Pretty low spell count, so that gives you opportunity, like in your side deck, to play some cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance. That's definitely one I would consider. I don't main it, but it's definitely a good side option because you play such a low spell count. That'd be a really good card choice. But on to the traps that we play. 3 Personal Spoofing. If only it was called like Altergeist Spoofing or something like that. Unfortunately it's not, so it's not searchable at all really, but it's really, really good. Once per turn you can shuffle 1 other Altergeist card from your hand or face up from your field into the main deck, and you add 1 Altergeist monster from your deck to your hand. So again, another way of easily getting to your multi-faker, so only having 1 multi-faker isn't really that bad at all. 3 Protocol, I like it at 3. I've seen a lot of people cut it down to 2. Kind of up to you. If you want to play other traps, you can cut it down to 2, but this one basically is saying the activation and effects of Altergeist cards activate on your field cannot be negated. And when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can send 1 other face-up Altergeist card you control to the grave and negate the activation. So this in combination with Manifestation, you can then special summon back that card that you just sent from the field to negate that activation. You can then special summon it with Manifestation. And you equip it with Manifestation, and when this card leaves the field, you destroy that monster. But then you can also banish this card from your graveyard, and you target one Altergeist trap in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So again, way of recycling all of these really good cards. Basically these, actually, not personal spoofing, but 2 Lost Wind. I really like it because of your option of, if your opponent special summons from the extra deck while this is in your graveyard, you can then set this card, so you kind of get to use it twice to negate a face-up special summon monster, and it halves its attack as well. Play 1 Crackdown, mostly because I don't want to be clashing with Secret Village too much. You know, if I don't have any monsters and I have to steal one of theirs and it's not a spellcaster, you know, but it's an amazing card. You could definitely play that 2 or 3 if you want. You know, take out a protocol, maybe play 2 of these, kind of whatever you want to do there. And then we get to our, like, power traps, per se, kind of our generic power traps. 3 Solemn Judgment, absolutely amazing. 3 Solemn Strike, same thing, just really good. And then the last card, Imperial Order, such a low spell count. Imperial Order just wreaks havoc on most decks, so I think it's a good choice for this deck. Onto the extra, 3 Hextia. It's your most important one, obviously that's why we're playing 3 of it. Just requires 2 Altergeist monsters, and it gains attack equal to the original attack of each Altergeist monster this points to. And when a spell or trap card or effect is activated, you can tribute 1 Altergeist monster this card points to, negate the activation, and destroy it. So it's going to be your just hard disruption on your opponent's turn. And then also, if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add 1 Altergeist from your deck to your hand. So again, another way of getting to any Altergeist card that you need. Just 1 Prime Banshee. It's a Link 3, just requires 2 plus Altergeist monsters. This one, during the main phase, you can tribute 1 other Altergeist monster, and you special summon 1 Altergeist from your deck to a zone this card points to. And then if this is sent from the field to the grave, you could target 1 Altergeist card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So again, recycle, recycle, recycle. That's kind of the heavy advantage of this deck. 2 Linkuriboh, because it is very important to get Meliseek off the field into the grave. So Linkuriboh becomes one of your best friends. And then now just for some kind of like generic links that you could play in this deck. Nightmare Phoenix, Cerberus, Unicorn, and Griffin. Play all of them. You know, these are obvious because they're going to be ways of getting rid of problem cards your opponent controls. But then Griffin is good because it's, again, a way of recycling your spells or traps that are in the grave. So I love it in this deck. I love it in most decks that can easily link up into cards. I think Griffin is really good. 1 Underclock Taker. Just a lot of these guys don't have too high of attack, so sometimes making Underclock and can just help you get over some problem cards. Daybreaker, kind of an interesting one, but it's a way of getting some disruption on board. It just requires 2 spellcasters. If this is Link Summon, you get 1 counter on it. And then if a spellcaster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, you get another counter. And then you can remove 2 counters and target 1 card on the field and destroy it. So it's just a way of getting body on the board and just some disruption. Ningirsu, the World Chalice Warrior. This is your way of getting rid of cards that can't be targeted or destroyed. It just flat out says you can send 1 card from each player's field to the graveyard. And then Borload, pretty good card. Again, it's a problem for some decks. Really good against Thunder. Your Thunder Dragon matchup. This is going to be a card if you can go into you want to go into as soon as you can. Just steal some of their Colossus or Titans. So it's 14 in the extra deck. Play whatever else you got. I couldn't really think of much else I wanted to play in here. You could potentially play some of like Super Poly targets. That's always a pretty common one in Altergeist decks because they can play Super Poly pretty easily. And again, like I mentioned, you can play cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance, Rivalry of Warlords, since a lot of them are Spellcaster. Rivalry becomes very good in some matchups. So, yeah, that's the deck, guys. I think it's super, super good. Obviously, I had it as number one in my budget and rogue strategies for this format. Super cheap. Again, like I said, a lot of these cards got reprinted. So they're pretty easy to come by now. But yeah, that's it, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.